My earliest memories of going to church, I I mean, I don't have any distinct memories of being in church when I was young. I just remember always going. I just remember it always being a part of our week and something that we would do and something that I had to go to. I was never particularly excited about it. I saw it as more of a social engagement for my parents than anything else. It was just something I had to accompany them to. So once I went to college, I very decisively stopped going to church because I wanted to have my Sundays back, and I had all of them back in college. If someone had invited me to go to church at that time in my life, like genuinely invited me, which never happened, I probably would have graciously declined, but in my head probably would have laughed and thought, heck no, dude, never. Like, absolutely not. I spent the last 18 years of my life going to church every week. I'm not about to go back to that. So
Jesus said, I will build my church, and the gates of hell will not prevail against it. Sometimes people point out that Jesus came announcing a kingdom. He said, the kingdom of heaven is at hand. But what came about instead was the church. People tend to think that Jesus was really interested or only interested in the kingdom, but the human institution of the church is at best a distraction and more likely a hindrance to what Jesus was actually trying to do. Now, it's true, Jesus came to bring his kingdom, a kingdom of peace and righteousness and human flourishing. But the popular idea that Jesus wasn't really interested in the church shows a basic misunderstanding of the relationship between Jesus' church and Jesus' kingdom. When Jesus said, I will build my church, and the gates of hell will not prevail against it, he's showing that the kingdom and the church are closely related. In fact, Jesus' strategy is for his church to be the herald and the catalyst of his kingdom. That's why Jesus says the gates of hell will not prevail against the church. When Jesus talks about gates of hell, he's alluding to another kingdom, a kingdom of darkness. And Jesus says that this kingdom of darkness will not be able to hold back his kingdom, which is coming, precisely because he is building his church. See, Jesus intentionally established an institutional community to bear witness to who he is and what he has done. This institutional community is what we call the church, and it has manifestations all over the world. And its goal is to spread the word about Jesus and to invite people to come and live as citizens of his kingdom. That's why we are here in Santa Barbara, to be a sign and witness of Jesus' kingdom. My name's Kyle, and I'm the lead pastor of Christ Presbyterian Church. Since its inception, our church has felt a strong call to be a present and faithful witness to the good news about Jesus, right in the heart of downtown Santa Barbara. We love Santa Barbara. It's our city. It's our home. We love it because of its beauty. I mean, who doesn't? We also love it in its brokenness. Most of all, we love Santa Barbara because God loves Santa Barbara. And we long to see the good news about Jesus impact every aspect of life here.
my housemates who I used to live with did a community group that met at their house. They would invite me to the community group every week, and I would graciously decline, just say, no thanks, I'm good. There was one night in particular where I had just made dinner, and I don't even remember what they were talking about at all. But I wound up just sitting by the window at the front of the house that was open, and the blinds were down, so I could just hear everything they were saying, but they couldn't see me. I don't remember anything about it, but I just remember sitting there and listening to them for about 15, 20 minutes and thinking, I would really like to be out there. I would really like to be asking questions. I would really like to be involved. It may have been the very next day I asked them if I could start coming to their community group, and they said, of course you can come. I think one night out of the month, someone would sign up to give their testimony. I was the only person in the group who was not a Christian, so everybody else's testimony sort of revolved around coming to know Christ. But they told me, like, yours, like, you can just make yours whatever you want. It doesn't have to be about, like, this is how I found Jesus if you're not a Christian yet. And so I said, okay, that's cool. But in doing that, I prepared a lot, and I wrote this huge document basically recounting my entire life. That process is really what led me to become a Christian. Reflecting on my entire life and thinking about the ways God has been at work in my life, I was just able to see it for the first time so clearly when I just thought about every single thing that had happened in my life and every single thing that had led me to living in Santa Barbara and being in this community group. And so the night came and I sort of gave my life story. And then at the end of it, I told everybody, I am a Christian. I am a Christian now. Jesus and the church had given so much to me, and I had taken it for granted or just not realized it at all. So, yeah.
In my wildest dreams, people would see that the church is an ark, and it's the only place of safety in a world that is full of a flood, and that they would come into it and take refuge there.